I mean, obviously you're living in a state of somewhat terror. How do you get out? How do you finally make that move and say, and what do you do with all your stuff? And
so I have an adventurous heart, and I think that really helped me during this time to let go and move forward. And I didn't know what the next right step was. And so I knew I had to leave Seattle, but I didn't know what that looked like, right? And so I called a friend of mine that was still living in Glenwood, and we talked, and she said, "You don't sound like you." And she said, I am extremely worried about you. And that was like especially a time where I knew I had to make a change. And she said, "Come back to Glenwood. Just stay for a week, stay for 2 weeks, just collect yourself and get yourself centered so you can plan a better future."
What is your main takeaway from this? And how do you see it affecting your worldview from this point forward?
I think that's a lesson that I'm still learning, right? I think there's still like ongoing trauma from that event, right? I'm to say like that to completely be sunny about that situation would be real, right? But what I've taken,
it doesn't have to be happy.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a traumatic thing, right? I mean, and at that point, the way I see it is for you to remove yourself and to regain function in a way is kind of what will need to take place on a larger scale.
I think the biggest takeaway from all of that is the human ability to be resilient. And I have seen the best of humanity this year, and I've seen the worst of humanity. And worst of humanity being like things that I couldn't have ever fathomed in a lifetime. But I've also, in the same token, experienced support and friendships that have came into my life that had always been there, but I just didn't realize their full potential. And I've seen incredible acts of kindness and acts of compassion. And when I say the ability for the human to be resilient, resiliency is not just bouncing back. I've learned that resiliency is a multi-dimensional topic. It's not, it doesn't look the same every time. Sometimes it's really like picking yourself up by your bootstraps and charging forward, and other times it's really like having compassion and forgiveness for yourself and your neighbor. And doing what you need to do to make it to the next day.
Takes a certain amount of forbearance, which I feel like you've through and through shown in your own journey of this situation. When you take away all the law, which is exactly what happened, it's more of a condition, a human condition of the heart and the mind, right? We define these words, this privilege or this right, and somehow they're different but the same. When we're talking about driving and getting a driver's license, it's a privilege, right? But when you own a gun, it's a right. But really, at the end of the day, it's sort of a balance between, are you capable? And so to a certain extent, it kind of brings up that forbearance again, to have the ability to be patient enough, kind enough, compassionate enough of a human, or in general, maybe it's an actual mechanical skill that you need. Whatever it is, those are things that are actually inside of us and not necessarily like what we're instructed to do. But the law and the enforcement and all these things are important in order to hold together that fragile glue of society that allows us to be who we want to be and not feel as a victim. And somehow that's all been flipped.
I think exactly what you're saying is correct. When people think about how they want to impact the world, they get overwhelmed because they look at the world and they say, "Oh man, it's a mess. How can I ever fix what's happening out there? I'm just not even going to try because it's such a mess out there." And that's the worst thing you can do because, yeah, you're not supposed to fix the world, but you are supposed to fix your neighborhood. And so it's that mindset of like looking locally to fix globally. And so being from small towns and having that ingrained sense of helping your neighbor and everyone, what I do affects you, what you do affects me, can make huge strides in creating a better place for everyone. And especially in a valley like this, where so much magic is possible. This valley is like notorious for wonderful magic coming out of it, and such talented people that live here that you wouldn't even, such incredible genius characters that you find just hidden in these hills. And it's, imagine if like your ideas of helping locally here, how they could ricochet out into the world.
Well, Elizabeth, thank you for joining us. It's been a extremely insightful and heartfelt adventure. I'm glad you're safe and here with us. And thank you for sharing your story with us.
I appreciate it. Thank you for listening.